smells like industrial carpet and stale coffee, fluorescent lights humming overhead like dying insects. Your fingers hover over the keyboard, cursor blinking on line 1 of your first real program. Hello world. You hit enter and watch those 2 words appear on the black terminal screen. Something electric shoots through your chest. This is power. This is creation. You're not just consuming anymore, you're building something from nothing. Telling the machine what to do with nothing but your thoughts, translated into precise commands. Your teacher moves to the next student, but you stay frozen, staring at those in that sterile room full of teenagers pretending to care about computers, wide-eyed and hungry. You already know this isn't just a class anymore. That's all upstairs, but you pretend not to hear them. You're too busy diving deeper into forums where people speak in acronyms you don't understand. HTML, CSS, JavaScript, Python. The word flying like a virus. You fall asleep at your desk at your flows of code, syntax, and curve braces. When you wake up with keyboard mark about sports tryouts and weekend parties, but you're mentally unmovingly mentions job security and good salary at your brain for hours. Claim the corner terminal as your own, personalized, but you've never cared less about other people's opinions. You have something. Late at night, when the rest of your family is asleep, structures, object-oriented programming, and functional programming, start dreaming in code. Literally, anymore. This isn't just a future career. Suggest you go outside more, make friends. They don't. Eyes glaze over. You found your people, even if you've never met them. Has become a flame, and you're convinced it will light your way. Future. College hits like a freight train. Anymore. The kid next to you in data has been coding under your feet. But you dig in, arranged like a command center. While you're writing. The assignments are brutal. Patience with databases and user authentication that render 3D models in real time. Each project pushes you to the edge of your abilities, then shoves you over. You spend entire week smallest syntax mistakes. But when your ray tracer finally renders shadows correctly, your roommate rolls over and mutters something about keeping it down, but you're too. This is what addiction feels like, and you're mainlining pure problem-solving satisfaction. You land your first internship a small startup downtown. The office is whiteboards covered in architectural diagrams, the constant clicking of mechanical keyboards. You're the youngest person there by 5 years, but nobody treats you like a kid. They treat you like a colleague. Like you belong. Your first real project, building a user dashboard for their customer analytics platform. It's not glamorous work, mostly connecting APIs and styling forms, but it's real. You wrote. Your manager reviews your pull request that makes money, something that exists in the world beyond academic exercise. But you volunteer for everything. You want to absorb it all: deployment pipelines, code reviews, sprint planning meetings, customer support tickets. You take notes on everything, even the boring stuff. You're convinced that understanding your worth in lines of code. GitHub becomes your personal scoreboard, green squares marking your daily contributions. You feel proud when your commit graph shows no gaps, ashamed when life forces you to take a day off. Your friends from home don't understand why you're excited about a streak, pushing codes for different companies. Until your hand cramps. You dream about binary trees and hash. Browser history is nothing but leak code and cracking the coding interview. You've wept. The job offers start rolling in. Good offers and stock options with the confidence of someone who knows they're in demand. You choose the offer with the best technical challenges. For leaving cash on the table, but you're not chance to work on problems that will push your byproduct of expertise. On graduation day, while your class to learn, side projects to build, conferences, the machine is humming perfectly, and you're consumed by it. Your first apartment is a studio with one window and as a couch. The kitchen table doubles as your home office, and you've convinced yourself this minimalism is intentional. You're focused. You're not missing out on anything important. Work consumes follows you home through Slack notifications and weekend deployments. Your phone buzzes with messages from your team lead at 11 p.m. about a critical bug in production. You roll out of bed to fix it, because that's what dedication looks like. Your manager notices your responsiveness. Your performance review mentions your ownership mentality. You stop calling your friends from college. Not intentionally, you just keep putting it off until later, and later never comes. They're busy with their own careers anyway, and honestly, talk about their marketing jobs and law school applications feel trivial. Architecture challenges you're wrestling with. You speak a different language now. Your dating life becomes a series of first dates where you struggle to explain what you do without boring people to death. I build back-end services. Sounds impressive until you try to describe what that actually means. Your passion translates poorly to dinner conversation. The spark in your eyes when you talk about distributed systems doesn't seem to kindle the same excitement in others. Family dinners become interrogations about your social life. Your sister brings her boyfriend, your cousin talks about her weddings, and you sit there with nothing to contribute. Except eyes glaze over. Your mom asks if you're dating anyone. You change the subject to the interesting machine learning project your team is prototyping. You tell yourself relationships are a distraction anyway. You're in your prime learning year. This is when you build the foundation for the rest of your career. You can focus on personal stuff later, after you've established yourself, after you've made senior engineer, after you've learned Kubernetes, after you've built something that scans of users. Your body starts keeping score of the sacrifices. Your laptops. Your eyes burn from staring at screens for 4 hours. You develop a permanent squint and buy blue light glasses. Feel hollow when you're popping ibuprofen, fueled by a combination of caffeine and the adrenaline of shipping code. You wear your exhaustion like a badge of honor. I haven't slept in 36 hours becomes a humble brag, proof of your dedication. In your world. Exercise. Use it twice. Your fitness tracker sits in a drawer. You promise yourself you'll start running again after accumulate like technical debt. Your social circles and Stack Overflow, but you can't remember. You build side projects and contribute on personal projects. Vacation without the distraction of daily stand-up meetings. You put photos of your laptop on the beach with captions about working from Paris. Your apartment starts to feel like a cell. Your groceries online because going to the store feels like wasted time. Every sacrifice feels strategic, but late at night when you close your laptop after another 16-hour day, the silence in your apartment feels heavier. You check your phone and realize you haven't had a meaningful conversation with another human being in weeks. The glow of your achievements feels dimmer when there's nobody to share them with. You shake off the feeling and plan tomorrow's work. There's always more to build, more to learn, more to optimize. The machine demands fuel, and you've become very good at the panic attack hits during a retrospective stall, your heart trying to escape through your throat. Your hands shake as you splash cold water on your face, staring at a stranger in the mirror. Hollow eyes, pale skin, a fire. Have to shave again. Tell yourself it's just stress. You pop another antacid and return Your screen looks like hieroglyphics. Function thoughts moving through molasses. The burnout creeps in slowly, then that used to energize you now feel insurmountable. You stare at it. Your manager schedules a check deploying code with obvious bugs, forgetting to cases a junior developer would catch. Your GitHub contributions start showing gaps like missing teeth. Sleep becomes elusive. It's filled with dreams about infinite loops and memory leaks. You wake trying to debug problems that don't exist. You're filing the same mental programs. Your team assigns you to mentoring the new intern. Watching their enthusiasm feels like a reminder of who you used to be before the machine. They ask excited questions about system architecture and career growth maintenance. You watch the light dim in their eyes and layoffs. Your stomach drops even though you know you're safe. Seeing LinkedIn posts about new opportunities makes structure really is. You've sacrificed everything for jobs that really exist. You try to take a vacation, but your brain won't comments on how distracted you seem, how you can't. You cut the trip short. Friends stop inviting you to things, not out of this. You've canceled too many dinners, bailed on declined too many invitations. They've given up expecting you to that isn't work-related. You tell yourself you don't mind, but the realization hit during another late night of fixing problems that used to light up your brain now feel like calculating how many years until retirement. The math is depressing. More years of sprints and stand-ups and performance review who you are outside of your job title. When people ask what you do, died years ago, sacrificed on the altar of professional development, and your work is consuming you from the inside out. Sitting in another pointless meeting about synergies and deliverables, and some breaks, apps, not explodes, just quietly pressure. You excuse yourself and walk to your car, not sure if you're having another panic lot, surrounded by other cars full of other people. You're not a software engineer anymore. You're a code-producing car in the company parking lot at 2 a.m., still debugging the same other developers' monitors. Fellow soldiers in an army is what success looks like in your industry. A six-figure salary, feel like you're drowning in accomplishments. You think about the intern you want to shake them awake, to warn them about the price of excellence in this field. The machine needs fresh fuel, and passion burns the brightest. Lines of code written, features shipped, systems scaled, software, and incredibly inefficient at living. You've automated yourself out of your own existence. Your phone buzzes with a Slack message from your manager. Good catch on that edge case. Thanks for staying. The praise feels hollow, a participation trophy for sacrificing. You used to live for this recognition. Now it just reminds you how little your life goes at a camp for kids with disabilities. Her social media is full of student thank you notes, glow with warm yellow light. Families eating dinner together, watching movies, helping with digital lives, but you've forgotten how to live an analog one. You calculate the compound. The numbers are impressive. You could retire comfortably, maybe life. The worst part isn't the sacrifice, it's that you were willing to make yourself out in service of someone else's vision. You honor, and your isolation as proof of dedication. Used being indispensable at work with being valued behind the systems that will outlive your tenure at the company. Future developer will inherit your work, curse your variable names, be lines in a repository, commits in a version control system, personal legacy. What will you leave? You've spent so many years building digital monuments that you forgot to build a life worth living. The parking lot security light flickers and dies, leaving you in darkness. Another Slack notification, another email, another commit at a time. You put your phone face down and sit in the side. Immediately reach for another task, another problem to solve. You just breathe. You just exist without optimizing for anything. In that moment, you realize the most sophisticated system you've ever built is the trap you're sitting in, and you're the only one with the keys to debug your way out. The question isn't whether you can escape. It's whether you remember how to want something better than the perfectly engineered prison you've spent years constructing around yourself. You start your car and drive home through empty streets, past other office buildings where other developers are sacrificing their lives for someone else's quarterly earnings. Tomorrow, you tell yourself, you'll figure out what comes next. Tonight, you just want to remember what it feels instead of a software engineer. The most brutal truth of all, you're exactly where you chose to be. Different. If this raw confession hit you worse, drop a comment below. Tell us about your own breaking point or being human. Sometimes the most important code we need to debug is our own life. The computer lab smells like industrial carpet and stale coffee. Insects. Your fingers hover over on line 1 of your first real program. Hello world. You hit enter and watch those 2 words appear on the black terminal screen. Something is power. This is creation. You're not just consuming, you're building something from nothing. Telling a machine with nothing but your thoughts, translated into precision. Your teacher moves to the next student, but you stay frozen. Full of teenagers pretending to care about computer science for their The screen reflects your face, wide-eyed, all upstairs, but you pretend not to hear them. You're too busy reading about acronyms you don't understand yet but desperately want to. The words roll around your mouth like incantations. After tutorial, your browser tabs multiply. Cool plastic of your laptop. In your dreams, you're floating in blues and greens and yellows. You're a god in this semicolons and curly braces. When you wake up with keyboard live, you feel chosen. You're the program you wrote yesterday. You're sketching out flowcharts on napkins. They think you're being The guidance counselor asks about, but that's not why you're doing this. Money feels small. The moment when buggy code finally runs, you start staying after school to work on the lab computer. You've claimed the corner terminal as your own, personalizing the desktop cascade of green text. Other students think you're weird. About other people's opinions. You have something they don't understand. You have purpose. Late at night, when the rest of your family is tutorials. Your bedroom becomes about algorithms and data structures, object-oriented, speak your language, who get excited about the same will light your way to a perfect future. You're not the smartest person in the room anymore. Next to you and has 3 internships lined up. You feel the ground shifting. You dig in harder. You survive energy drink. dorm room becomes a fortress of empty while your roommate goes to parties and joins clubs, web applications with databases and user entire weekends debugging code that should work but doesn't. But when you finally solve each problem, the dopamine hit renders shadows correctly. Your roommate rolls over and mutters something about, "This is what addiction feels like," and your mainline problem-solving satisfaction. You land your first internship sophomore year. Developers in hoodies and headphones, whiteboards covered in mechanical keyboards. You're the youngest person there. They treat you like a colleague, like you belong. Your first real. It's not glamorous work, mostly connecting APIs and styling. Reviews your pull requests with genuine feedback, not just grilled beyond academic exercises. The other interns complain about the grunt work. Deployment pipelines, code reviews, sprint planning meetings, customer support stuff. You're convinced that start measuring your worth in lines of code. GitHub contributions. You feel proud when your commit graph shows no gaps. A shame. From home, don't understand why you're excited about a streak every day for 3 months straight. Memorized hundreds of algorithm problems. Practiced coding on whiteboards. Your browser history is nothing but leak code and cracking the code solving into a performance optimized for hiring managers. And your friends jealous. You compare salary packages like signing bonuses and stock options with the confidence of some the best technical challenges, not the most money. Your friends think but you're not optimizing for graduation day while your classmates throw their caps in the air, build conferences to attend. The grind doesn't stop with college. You feel unstoppable. You feel prepared. Perfectly, and you're convinced you're driving it instead of being. Apartment is a studio with one window and excellent Wi-Fi. That's all you really. The kitchen table doubles as your home office, and you've convinced 12 hours of your day, then follows you home through Slack notifications from your team lead at 11 p.m. about a critical bug in production. Dedication looks like. Your manager notices your responsibility. Not intentionally, you just keep putting. Would you talk about their marketing jobs and law school applications? Feel architecture challenges you're wrestling with. Back-endices sounds poorly to dinner conversation. The sparkly dinners become interrogations about your social life. Sit there with nothing to contribute except work stories that make everyone project your team is prototyping. You tell on personal stuff later, after you've established yourself. After you've learned Kubernetes, after your body starts keeping score of the sacrifices. From hunching over laptops, your eyes burn hours straight. You develop a permanent, but the jokes feel hollow when you're popping ibuprofen every morning. Optional. You pull all-nighters for product launches, fueled by you wear your exhaustion like a badge of honor. Your coworkers nod approvingly. This is what from your routine. You buy a gym membership and use it twice. It's battery dead. You promise yourself you'll start running again. Promises accumulate like technical debt. Your social You're active in Discord servers and Stack Overflow. You had a conversation that wasn't about work. Even your hobby and contribute to open source libraries. Vacations turn into opportunity to learn new frameworks. The irony doesn't register. Your clothes. You order groceries online because going to the place feels strategic. Per day, the silence in your apartment feels different. Achievements feels dimmer when there's nobody to share them with. There's always more to build, more to learn, more to... You've become very good at feeding it everything you have. The panic attack hit. One moment you're discussing sprint velocity and throat. Your hands shake as you splash cold water on your face. You tell yourself it's just stress. Functions yesterday might as well be written in a foreign language, slowly, then all at once. Simple problems that used to energize. You stare at your IDE for hours, cursor blinking mockingly on it. Schedules a check-in meeting that feels more like an intervention. Obvious bugs, forgetting to run tests, missing contributions, once a source of pride, become sporadic. Start showing gaps like missing teeth. Then when it finally comes, it's filled with dreams about. You wake up more tired than when you went to bed. Your subconscious still turn off, constantly compiling and entering the new intern, thinking it might re-energize you. But watching their enthusiasm feels like looking at old photos of yourself. System architecture and career growth. You give them. You watch the light dim in their eyes and realize you've become the cynical senior developer you once pitied. The company announces layoffs. Your stomach drops even though you know you're safe. Your performance reviews are solid. Your manager values your experience. But watching colleagues pack their desks, seeing their LinkedIn posts about new opportunities, makes you realize how fragile this whole structure really is. You've sacrificed everything for job security that doesn't actually exist. You try to take a vacation, but your brain won't disconnect. You check Slack every few hours, respond to emails from the beach. Your family comments on how distracted you seem, how you can't seem to enjoy anything without your laptop nearby. You cut the trip short, claiming there's a critical issue at work. There isn't. You just don't know how to exist without the constant hum of productivity. Friends stop inviting you to things. You've canceled too many dinners, bailed on too many gatherings, work-related. You tell yourself you don't mind, but you can't remember the last time you felt excited about. Problems that used to light up your brain now feel like grinding through endless. Writing code because it's what you do. Not because. Start calculating how many years until retirement. The math is 40 more years of this, 40 more years. You wonder if other careers feel this hollow in their work. Your identity crisis deepens when you realize title. When people ask what you do for fun, remember, your hobbies died years ago, and your work is consuming you from the inside out. The breaking point, it's pathetically mundane. You're sitting in another pointless meeting about synergy. Something inside you just breaks. Under too much pressure. You excuse yourself and walk in the parking lot, so other cars full of other winding through their. You're not a software engineer anymore. You're a code-producing character from someone else's story. You sit in your car in the cup for the scattered glow of other developers' monitors, fellow soldiers in a wanted when you wrote your first line of code. So, the truth settles in your chest. You've optimized your entire life for variable own existence. Your phone buzzes with a participation trophy for sacrificing another evening to the algorithm. Your life costs. You remember your Dia is full of student thank you notes and vacation photos with her husband. You The suburban houses around the office glow with warm yellow race conditions in a distributed system that processes payment transactions. But you've forgotten how to live an analog one. You calculate the compound interest on your savings, your 401k contributions, your stock options. The numbers are impressive. No relationships, no interests outside of technology. Part isn't the sacrifice, it's that you were willing to make it. You vault the badge of honor and your isolation as proof of dedication. With being valuable as a person. You think about the control system, documentation that will become obsolete, other than your ability to deliver software on documents that you forgot to build a life worth. Another Slack notification, another email. You put your phone face down and sit in for another problem to solve, another way to prove your worth. In that moment, you realize the most sophisticated system, one with the keys to debug your way out. The question isn't whether you can escape, it's wealth. You start your car and drive home through. You just want to remember what it feels like to be human, instead of a you chose to be. Makes you the only one responsible for choosing something different. If this grind flicks for more unfiltered truths about the careers that consume. The important code we need to debug is our own life. You remember the exact moment everything line one of your first real program, but your thoughts translated into precise commands. In that sterile room full of teenagers pretending to care about computers. Found your religion. The screen reflects your face. Why anymore? That night, you skip dinner, is online, diving deeper into forums where people in acronyms Python. The words roll around your mouth like plastic of your laptop. In your dreams, you're floating endless lines of curse on your face. You don't feel tired. You feel alive. Your friends are talking about sports tryouts and weirdies, but debate who's dating who. You're sketching out fancy, you say hesitation. She nods approvingly, mentions runs clean, is better than any drug you could imagine. Personalizing the desktop wallpaper to a late at night, when the rest of your family is asleep, the other door, in an infinite mansion of possibilities. Processing logic while you sleep. This isn't just a hobby and they try to limit your screen time, suggest you go outside more, make friends that make everyone else's eyes glaze over. Anymore. The kid next to you in data structures, your dorm room becomes a fortress of empty cans that make your high school projects look like finger paintation. Graphics programs that render 3D models that should work but doesn't. Tracking down errors that shadows correctly. Roommate rolls over and mutters something about keeping it down. This is what addiction feels like. And mainlining clippers and hoodies and headphones, whiteboards covered in architectural person there by 5 years, but nobody treats you like a kid's platform. It's not glamorous work. Mostly use your pull requests with genuine feedback, not just grades. Complain about the grunt work, but you volunteer for everything. You want to customer support tickets. You take notes on everything, even the You're convinced that understanding. You start measuring your worth in lines of code. You feel proud when your commit graph shows no gaps, ashamed when life don't understand why you're excited about a streak 3 months straight. Senior memorized hundreds of algorithm problems, practiced binary trees and hash tables. Your browser history is nothing but cracking the coding interview. You've weaponized your passion. It's optimized for hiring managers. The job offers numbers that make your parents proud and your friends. You can negotiating signing bonuses and stock options. Nickel challenges, not the most money. Your friends think you're crazy for optimizing for dollars. You're work on problems that will push your skills to new levels. Money on graduation day, while your classmates throw their few months at your new job. You've got a list of technologies to learn, conferences to attend. The grind doesn't stop with college. You feel unstoppable. You feel prepared. You're driving it instead of being consumed by it. Your first apartment is a studio. Wi-Fi. That's all you really need. The bed doubles as a couch. Sitting out on anything follows you home through Slack notifications and weekend deployments. 11 p.m. about a critical bug in production. You roll out of bed to your performance review mentions your ownership mentality until later, and later never comes. They're busy with your dating life becomes a series of first to try to describe what that actually means. Your passion, the spark in your eyes when you talk about distributed systems in others. Family dinners become interrogation. A cousin talks about her wedding plans. You sit there with nothing. Your mom asks if you're dating him. You are a distraction anyway. You're in your prime. You can focus on personal stuff later. You've built something that scales to millions of users. Your back aches from hunching over laptops. Your eyes burn from staring. You look like a stereotype every morning. Sleep becomes optional. You wear your exhaustion like a badge of honor. I haven't looks like in your world. Exercise disappears from your fitness tracker sits in a drawer, its battery dead. You promises accumulate like technical debt. Your social workers and online communities. Your the last time you had a conversation that wasn't about work and contribute to open source libraries. You convince your networking, this is personal growth. Birthdays, vacations turn into opportunities to learn new frameworks with captions about working from paradise. The irony doesn't register. Your apartment starts to feel like a cell. Every 2 weeks when you run out of clean clothes. You order time. You could be coding instead. You justify it all with the promise of future off. You're building something. You're investing in your skills. Temporary, necessary. You're not missing out on life. But late night when you close your laptop after another 16 hours, the silence in your apartment feels different. Achievements feels dimmer when there's nobody to share them with. Build. More to learn. More afternoon. One moment you're discussing sprint velocity and tech. You splash cold water on your face, staring at a stranger in the mirror. You tell yourself it's just stress. Just the code on your screen looks like fix. Now creeps in slowly, then all at once. Cursor blockingly on an empty line. Your coworker's intervention. You start making mistakes your developer would catch. Your GitHub contribution. Sleep becomes elusive. Then when it finally trying to debug problems that don't exist, your brain won't turn off, energize you. Watching their enthusiasm feels like looking at old about system architecture and career growth. You give them practice. You watch them in their eyes and realize you've become the experience. But when colleagues pack their desks, seeing their LinkedIn, you've sacrificed everything for job security that doesn't actually on the beach. Your family comments on how's this. You've canceled too many dinners. Realization hits during another late night of fixing someone else's code, grinding through endless paperwork. You're going through the motion. You start calculating how many years until everyone is just pretending to find meaning in their work. Your identity. When people ask what you do for fun, the breaking point isn't dramatic. It's pathetic. Not snaps, not and walk to your car if you're having another panic attack or finally waking. Cars full of other people grinding through their own professional purgatory. You're a code-producing machine that occasionally needs food that broke 3 hours ago. The office building looms dark. Yourself. Success looks like in your industry. When you wrote your first line of code. So, why does it feel like you're drowning in a complex? You want to shake them awake, to warn them about the price of the brightest. The truth settles in your chest, producing software, and incredibly in it living. You've automated yourself out of your own. Good catch on that edge case. Thanks for staying late. The praise feels hollow. Little your life costs. You remember your college friend who became a teacher. She makes a third of your spend. You used to pity her career choice. Now you wonder who really made the smarter decisions. Your work enables their digital lives, but you've forgotten how to live an analog. Your 401k contributions, your stock options. The numbers are impressive. Tired to what? You have no hobbies, no relationships, no interest. Life. The worst part isn't the sacrifice, it's that you were of someone else's vision. You wore your exhaustion indispensable at work with being valuable as a person. Behind the systems that will outlive your tenure at the company. Some future developer will inherit your work, curse your variable names, refactor your clever optimizations. Your professional legacy will be lines in a repository, commits in a version control system, documentation that will become obsolete within 5 years. But what about your personal legacy? What will you leave behind that matters to actual humans? Who will remember you for something, your ability to deliver software on deadline? You've spent so many years building digital monuments that you forgot to build a life worth living. The parking security light flickers and dies, leaving you in except for the glow of your phone. Another Slack notification, the silence. For the first time in years, you don't immediately reset. You just breathe. You just exist without only one with the keys to debug your way out. Prison you've spent years constructing around yourself. You slicing their lives for someone else's quarterly earnings. Tomorrow you tell yourself, you'll figure out what. You just want to remember what it feels like to be human. You're exactly where you chose to be, which makes you the only one responsible for choosing something different. Hit you where it hurts. You're not alone. Subscribe to Grindflix for more unfiltered truths about. Drop a comment below. Tell us about your own breaking point, or how you found your way back to being. The most important code we need to debug is our own life. You remember the exact moment everything changed. Like industrial carpet and stale coffee board, cursor blinking on line 1 of your Hit enter and watch those two words appear on the screen. This is power. Creation moves to the next student, but you stay frozen, staring at those The screen reflects your face, wide-eyed and hungry. You already know this is. You pretend not to hear them. You're too busy like incantations. You bookmark tutorial after. You're floating through endless lines of code, syntax painting the dark. When you wake up with keyboard marks on your face, you don't feel tired. During lunch, while they debate dating who, social, you know you're being focused. You feel small compared to the rush of solving a problem that's been eating at your small compared to the rush of solving a problem that's been eating at your cascade of green text. Other students think your bedroom becomes a cave lit only text. Other students think your bedroom becomes a cave lit only by monitor glow. You learn about before. Your subconscious has become a compiler. They don't understand that you found your tribe on. They don't understand that you found your tribe on. About the same problems that make everyone else's eyes glaze. Flame, and you're convinced it will light your room. You're not the smartest person in the room anymore. The kid next behind you already has 3 internships lined up. Behind you already has 3 internships lined up. But you dig in harder. You survive on energy. You survive on energy. Monitors arranged like a command. Monitors arranged like a command. What look like finger painting. The assignments are brutal. The assignments are brutal. Graphics programs that render 3D models in real work but doesn't. Tracking down every solve each problem. The dopamine hit is incredible. You something about keeping it down, but you're too euphoric to care. Sophomore year at a small startup downtown. The office years, but nobody treats you like a kid. Like you belong. Your first real project is building a user dashboard for their customer analytics platform. It's not glamorous work, mostly connecting APIs and styling forms, but your manager reviews your pull requests with genuine feedback. Something that makes money, something that exists in the world beyond academic exercises. The others complain about the grunt work, but you volunteer for everything. You want to reviews, sprint planning meetings, customer support tickets. You take notes on everything. You're convinced that under code, GitHub becomes your personal scoreboard, green squares marking your. You feel proud when your commit graph shows no gaps, ashamed when life forces you to take a day off. Your friends from home don't understand why you're excited about a streak of pushing code. Senior year, you're juggling 6 technical interviews for different companies. You've memorized hundreds of algorithm problems, practiced coding on whiteboards until your hand cramps. About binary trees and hash tables. Your browser hits coding interview. You've weaponized your passion, turned your good numbers that make knows they're in demand. You choose the optimal, but you're not optimizing for dollars. You're optimizing chance to work on problems that will push your skills to new levels. On graduation day, while your classmates throw their caps in the air, you've got a list of technologies to learn, side projects. You feel unstoppable, is humming perfectly, and you're convinced you're driving it instead. This apartment is a studio with one window and excellent Wi-Fi. That's as your home office, and you've convinced yourself this minimalism. You're committed. You're not missing out on anything important. Back notifications and weekend deployments. Your phone buzzes, fix it, because that's what dedication looks like. You're manly. You stop calling your friends from college. You just keep putting it off until later, and later never comes. With their own careers anyway, and honestly, what would you talk about? Feel trivial compared to the system architecture challenges you're wrestling. Your life becomes a series to death. I build end services. Your passion translates poorly to dinner conversation. Doesn't seem to kindle the same excitement in. Your sister brings her boy. You change the subject to the interesting machine learning project when you build the foundation for the rest of your career. After you've made senior engineer. After you've learned Kubernetes. It's keeping score of the sacrifices. Your back aches from height glasses. Look like a stereotypical programmer. Optional. You pull all-nighters for projects, few nod approvingly. This is what's like in your work. Use it twice. Fitness tracker sits in a drawer, its battery dead. Shrinks to your coworkers and online and contribute to open source. Shrinks to your coworkers and online open source libraries. You convince yourself this is networks libraries. You convince yourself this is network. Your apartment starts to feel like a cell. Take out containers putting in your skills like a cell. Take out containers putting in your skills. You're positioning yourself for bigger opportunities. Now on life, just focused on the right parts of it. But late hour day, the silence in your apartment feels different. Had a meaningful conversation with another human being in weeks. The glow, take off the feeling and plan tomorrow's work. Always more. And you've become very good at feeding it everything you've. You're discussing sprint velocity and technical debt. Then splash cold water on your face, staring at a stranger. Yourself, it's just stress. Just coffee. Your brain feels wrapped in cotton, thoughts mockingly on an empty line. Your coworkers noticing, thoughts mockingly on an empty line. Your coworkers noticing your decreases, missing cases a junior developer would. Sleep becomes elusive. Then when it finally comes, it's entering the new intern. Thinking it might. Then when it finally comes, it's entering the new intern. Thinking it might reach you. They ask excited questions about system your stops, even though you know you're safe. Your perform posts about new opportunities. You know you're safe. Your perform posts about new opportunities. Makes you realize every few hours, respond to emails from the beach. There isn't. You just don't know how to exist without, but out of learned hopeless. You just don't know how to exist without, but out of learned hopelessness. You've canceled work-related. You tell yourself you don't mind, but the silence. You can't remember the last time you felt excited about programming. You're going through the motions. 40 more years of this, meaning in their work. 40 more years of this, meaning in their work. Your identity crisis deepest on the altar of professional development. Meeting about synergies and deliverables, and something You excuse yourself and walk to your car and deliverables and something. You excuse yourself and walk to your car, not sure if you're having an attack through their own professional purgatories. You finally understand. You finally understand. You're a code-producing machine. You're a code-producing machine that occasionally needs food and bugging the same issue that broke 3.0. The office 3.0. The office building lumen burns the brightest. The true building lumen burns the brightest. The truth, incredibly efficient at producing software and incredibly inefficient at living. You've automated. The praise feels participation. Her social media is full of student thank you notes and vacation photos with her husband. Your wearables their digital lives, but forgotten how to live an analog. If the worst part of the sacrifice, it's that you were to make it. You volunteered. You confused being indispensable. Codebase you'll leave behind, the systems that will outlive your. But what about your personal legacy? Will you leave behind phone? Another Slack notification. Another. You just breathe. You just exist without optimizing. The question isn't whether you can escape. It's prison you've spent years constructing around yourself. You start your car and developers are sacrificing their lives for someone else's quarterly earnings. Tonight, you just want to remember what it feels like to, instead of a song, makes you the only one responsible for choosing something different. If this raw confession alone, subscribe for more unfiltered about the careers that consume us, human. Sometimes the most important code we need to debug is our own life. The exact moment everything, the computer lab smells like into your chest. It's translated into precise command. Knowledge applications, you found your religion. The screen reflect to hear them. Memes, you're float to hear them. Memes, you're floating through endless lines of code, syntax, and curly. When you wake up with keyboard marks on your face, you're sketching out flowcharts on napkins. Clean is better than any drug you could imagine. You start code. Literally, you are. This isn't just a few speak your language who get excited about the same to a perfect future. College hits like a freight train. Person in the room anymore. The kid next to you in data stream. You dig in harder. You survive on energy drinks, data points. Web applications with database over. You spend entire weekends debugging should work but doesn't. That hide in the small syntax mistakes. But when you finally over and mutter something about keeping it down, but you're too for problem solving. Developers in hoodies and headphones, whiteboards covered in architectural building a user dashboard for their customer analytics platform, contributing to something that makes money, something that exists and absorb it all, deployment pipelines, code, sprint planning meetings. You start measuring your worth in lines of code as your personal gaps, shamed when life day off. You're on whiteboards until your hand cramps. You dream is nothing but leak code and cracking the coding interview. You've weaponized stock options with the confidence of someone who knows they're in demand. Bills to new levels. Money is just a byproduct planning your first few months at your new job. The grind doesn't stop with college. If anything, it's you feel like you're exactly where you're supposed to be. And you're convinced you're driving it instead of being consumed by it. Your first apartment is a studio with one window, and that's all you. Couch, the kitchen table doubles as your home office, and you've convinced it is intentional. You're focused, you're committed, you're not missing out on anything important. Work consumes 12 hours of your day. Slack notifications and weekend deployments. Your phone buzzes like your manager notices your responsiveness. College. Not intentionally. You just, honestly, what would you talk about? Their marketing jobs in law school. You speak a different language now. Back-end services sounds impressive until you try to describe. Your passion translates poorly to dinner conversation. The spark kindle the same excitement in others. Family dinner. Your sister brings her boyfriend, wedding plans, and you sit there with nothing to contribute to the interesting machine learning project your team is prototyping. You're in your prime learning years. This is when you build the foundation. Focus on personal stuff later, after you've established yourself. After you've learned Kubernetes, your body starts keeping score of the sacrifices. Your eyes burn from staring at screens for 14 glasses that make you look like a stereotypical programmer. Ibuprofen every morning. You wear your exhaustion like a badge of honor, nod approvingly. This is what success looks like in your world. Again, after this sprint, after this deadline, after this quarters and always. You're active in disk servers and convince yourself this is networking, this is per growth, without distraction of daily stand-up meetings. Your apartment starts to feel like a cell. Takeout containers pile groceries online because going to the store feels like wasted. Sacrifice feels strategic, temporary, heavier. You check your phone and realize you haven't had a meeting on a Tuesday afternoon. One moment you're discussing sprint velocity. Bathroom stall, your heart trying to escape through your throat. Your hand. Hollow eyes, pale skin, a 5-day beard, be sure of the upcoming product launch. You pop another antacid and functions you wrote yesterday might as well be wrapped in cotton, thoughts moving through molasses, burnout creeps in months. Simple problems that used to energize you now feel insurmountable. Blinking mockingly on an empty line. Your manager schedules a check-in meeting. You start making mistakes, stupid mistakes, as a junior developer would catch. You wake up more tired than when your subconscious team assigns you to mentoring the new intern, thinking it might ground you down. They ask excited. You give them practical answers about the company announces layoffs. Your stomach drops even though you know pack their desks, seeing their LinkedIn posts about new opportunities connect. You check Slack every few hours, respond to emails. Can't seem to enjoy anything without your laptop nearby. Know how to exist without the constant hum of productivity. They've given up expecting you to show up for anything that isn't work-related. Realization hits during another late night of fixing someone else's code. About programming. The problems that used to light your brain. Writing code because it's what you do. Start calculating how many years until retirement. And stand-ups and performance reviews. Your identity crisis deepens when you realize you don't know who you are outside. Your work is consuming you from the inside out. The braking just quietly fractures like old too much pressure. By other cars full of other grinding through their own professional purgatory. Producing machine that occasionally needs food and sleep. You sit in your car in the company parking lot at 2 a.m., still debug scattered glow of other developers' monitors. Fellow soldier. This is what success looks like, and does it feel like you're drowning in accomplishments? You think to warn them about the price of excellence in field. Burns the brightest. Truth settles in your chest. You've become incredibly efficient at producing software, and the praise feels hollow, a participation trophy for sacrificing another little your life costs. You remember your college friend, career choice. Now you wonder who really made the smarter decision. The suburban that processes payment transactions. Your work enables their distributions, your stock options. The numbers are impressive. Relationships, no interests outside of technology, of burning yourself out in service. Find the systems that will outlive your tenure. Names, refactor your clever actions. But what about your personal legacy? Remember you for something other than your ability to deliver software flickers and dies, leaving you in darkness, except and sit in the silence. For the first time in years, you don't optimizing for anything. In that moment you can escape. It's whether you remember how to want something bar and drive home through empty streets, past other office buildings where other developers. Tonight, you just want to remember what it feels like to be human, of a software and which makes you the only one responsible for choosing. Subscribe to Grindflix, more unfiltered truths about the careers that can to debug is our own life. You remember the exact moment everything changed. Hello world. You're building something from nothing. In the sterile room full of teenagers anymore. You skip dinner. Your parents call upstairs you don't understand yet but desperately want to. HTML. Your browser tabs multiplying like of code, syntax highlighting, painting the darkness, blues and sports tryouts and weekend parties, but you're mentally debugging they think you're being antisocial. Sheens approvingly mentions job security and good salary. The moment when buggy code finally runs clean, wallpaper to a matrix-style cascade of green text. New languages from YouTube tutorials. Concept feels like a key, unlock solutions to programming problems that stumped you the day before. This isn't just a hobby anymore. This isn't just if you speak your language, who get excited about the same abstract become a flame, and you're convinced it will light your way to the smartest in the room anymore. The kid next to you in data structure internships lined up. You feel the ground shifting under of empty monster cans and programming assignments that make your high school render 3D models in real time. Reading code that should work but doesn't. Tracking down errors that hide. This is what addiction feels like. And your main mechanical keyboard. This is what addiction feels like. And your main mechanical keyboards. You're the youngest person there by your manager pull requests with genuine feedback, not just deploy pipelines, code reviews, sprint planning meetings, customer support tickets, deploy pipelines, code reviews, sprint planning meetings, customer support tickets, and lines of code. GitHub becomes your personal scoreboard day off. Your friends from home